Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Health and Recreation Committee meeting for the Village of Mariemont. For most of you have been through committee meetings before, some of you may not, but usually what we try to do is for Village Council is have the committee meetings take deeper dives into issues or challenges that are facing the village. And today's meeting, we're going to be reviewing the structure of the recently formed tree committee, but more importantly, try to take a deep dive into, what exactly is our current tree program for the Village of Mariemont. So this first meeting is probably only going to be more informational, and I really don't anticipate us coming out of here with, any decisions, because there's going to be a lot of stuff to go through. I had forwarded all of you most of the information that I had received to date regarding some of the spending patterns, some of the other things that are out there. Hopefully, there'll be some additional information we can share after this meeting with everybody, get everybody on the same page. So hopefully I had a chance to take a look at some of that stuff. I know some of it was kind of voluminous, but just trying to get everybody up to speed about where we stand. So the one question that I keep having in my mind on this whole process is, do we have a comprehensive tree plan for the entire village and, over the last 20 years? And I've not really been able to dig one up. And John, I don't, you and I have talked a couple of times, and you're not aware of one. We've got the John Nolan plan, but that's not in the last 20 years. That's obviously 100 years old. And I still haven't seen a copy of that. John, do you have that in some format that you can share with everybody? Or
I do not. The only thing I had was that Eleanor Christie plan.
Okay.
Okay, I got that one. Yep.
Yeah, we saw that. So was it something that he had in his master plan, or what did he have? Or does Eleanor Christie kind of address it with her existing trees column?
That's what I think. I think that's what everybody refers to the John Nolan. It's actually Eleanor Christie is the only thing I can think of.
John, did you get that from Karen Sullivan? Because I know she had one that she was calling the John Nolan plan, but I never saw it either.
I think I actually might have a copy of that I got from Karen Sullivan.
From John Nolan's or Eleanor Christie's?
It's listed as being John Nolan's.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen an actual John Nolan plan.
Yeah,
I went through all our stuff that I've had in the past.
I'll go back through those earlier files and see if I can find it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bill, if you can find it, it'd be great if we can create a PDF copy of it so we can.
Okay.
Again, it's what I'm trying to do right now is get my arms around everything that's been done in the past to try to see how we go forward from here.
Sure.
Actually, I didn't really even know who Eleanor Christie was, and I kind of did some searching over the weekend. I was pretty impressed. She had a pretty impressive background about things she did around the city of Cincinnati and other places.
Yeah.
So I think we can kind of rely on that as being a pretty good review, even though it was done in 1956. And obviously, there's probably some changes or thoughts about what trees are vibrant or doable in the Midwest area. So the other question that I had is, okay, so I've seen the plan that you've got now for Cherry, Oak, and Maple Street.
Yeah.
We can discuss these a little bit more detail later. Was there something that was done on Center Street a while back? I thought there were some new trees put in there.
Yes, that was from when the Emerald Ash Borer came in, took out the ash trees there. We ended up putting the
London
Plains in there.
Okay.
But then last year also in conjunction with the cherry trees on the, I guess what would be the southern part of Center Street past where the median is, there were several additional London plane trees put in.
Yes.
Yeah.
To match that area. Yes.
Okay, and the median work that was done 8 to 10 years ago, wasn't it, or something like that, if I remember?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But the stuff that was planted along the street in the next block was done 2 or 3 years ago.
I think
last year. I thought it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year we had those put in on Center.
Okay. And so I think everybody can agree, we really don't have a master plan right now for our street trees and or for park trees. That it's the question I keep asking. Is there something out there that I'm missing in the process? But
no.
John, is Wendy in the process of trying to create that street by street or?
Correct. Yes. So that's what she started 3 years ago when she was working with Karen. So,
And how far has she gotten? Do we know that?
well, that's what we're looking at. The Old Town Center was what the original thing was. So that was Oak Street and Maple this year. So what we'll do is continue on. The whole idea behind this now will be this winter to go around and see where all our planting sites are and see how many trees we can actually need to be planted in. And then from there, we'll go and look at the size of the location of the right of way there. What kind of tree would best fit, whether it's a small area, medium, or a large
For the Old Town Center or the entire village?
for the entire village.
Okay.
So back in 2010, 2011, we had an arborist that was starting to do a tree survey,
Mhm.
going down the different streets to find out what the type of tree, the diameter, and all that. So we were starting that, and that kind of fizzled out. So because that way we can get a grip on the number of species that we have throughout the village. So we're not 90% maple and 5% this and 2% that. This way we can kind of break it all down to 10, 20, and 30% of different cultivars. So that's the goal with the tree committee that we're starting up here now.
And then I have one other question. I remember a while ago, kind of a push to plant along Miami Bluff to, help shore up the bluff.
Yeah,
Was any thought given to the types of trees? It appears as a resident, it was kind of random.
very good.
It appears random, yeah.
Yes. So we got a deal on a bunch of trees from Big Lots. And some of those turned out to be apple trees, pear trees, and different kind of tree. So, but they wanted to get rid of trees, and somebody was there one day talking to them. The guy says, "Hey, for X amount of dollars, I'll give you all the trees I got out there if you take them all." And so the village, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So that's what we went by.
Do we
So-
know if those are indeed trees that would, how do I phrase it? Help me out.
Well, some neighbors like the pear trees.
Facilitate stabilizing the hillside, or
I
does any
don't, I
tree?
don't, I don't think so.
Oh,
So,
okay.
They're more ornamental, I think.
yes.
Which
So,
in a way is kind of a shame because you have a big tree lawn there and you could plant really
Yes.
huge trees there. But instead, kind of smaller stuff took up spaces
Right,
that could maybe go more along a sidewalk,
right.
but they're there.
Okay, so John, what I'm hearing you say is that will be working on a inventory and or assessment of the street trees starting
Yes.
this winter. Okay.
yeah. So
What-
what I want to do is try to figure out how many trees we can plant throughout the village, where we
Okay.
hit okay, mark down the locations. This way I can come to council and say, hey, look, we want to do X amount of trees this year, and try to have something ready for a budget and stuff like that. So we know exactly what we're going to be spending on.
It'd be really great to be able to get it, in a spreadsheet by street, how many plantings we have, what we want to plant, maybe what's there existing, like just so it's all in one spot,
Yes.
I think would be nice.
Yes. This way we can kind of get a grips on what we have and what's going to best work. Now, Settle and Homewood, we change them around for trees that grow 15, 20 feet just because of the wiring that we have over there. Because anything like the maples and all that get up in the wire, Duke Energy comes in about every 2 to 3 years and just whack the crap out of them. So we're trying to keep plants that are down a little bit. Yes, they don't give it much of a canopy, but there's not much you can do with the wiring there. So over the years, Duke has been changing it has to be within 25 feet, and they can trim up to 75 feet on both sides of the wires. And if you look at some of the trees, especially going up Bramble Hill near Joan Place, and Murray Avenue is another big one where they take all the limbs off of one side of the tree and leave everything homeowner side. So it's not very aesthetic, but we tried. It used to be back in the early 90s, we used to be able to work with their vegetation group, and they always called ahead of time, and we determined whether or not they should V the tree or make it an L-shape type versus topping the tree all the way down. But then when it comes fall and everybody sees the big V and a big hole in the middle with the wires running, they all run, looks bad. but when the leaves are on, it's not that bad. It's not as noticeable. So that's the kind of things that we've kind of changed around a little bit and trying to deal with it, that plus the underground utilities. Now that we're getting cable and fiber optics, some of these areas that you got a little 2 foot, 3 foot section, and you got the electric and all that running through there, it's kind of hard to figure out what type of tree you want to put in that's going to work, because we have to move the electric around, or the utilities anyway, cable.
Okay,
and stuff.
so again, to summarize, the goal is to try to get something together on the street trees to get both
Yes.
inventory. And are they going to assess the current trees that are there about what needs to come out as they're identifying these planting locations?
Yeah, eventually we will. Right now, how that works is basically if the homeowner calls or somebody calls about their tree, we'll come out and inspect it. We'll start a list, and once we got a good list for Davies to come in to give us a bid and look at everything, then that's how we normally do it. We didn't really go out and be real proactive, because every tree you need something pruned on, I guarantee it. So whether it's a safety prune or whatever. So we're only worrying about the major stuff right now, so we can get a handle on it.
Okay.
So,
What about park trees? Is that sometime in the future? I mean,
yes, that right now, any tree that's in the park, if it falls in the park, is supposed to stay in the park. Mary Emery's thing. But I know in the past we've been doing dogwoods over at Dogwood Park on the outside of the tree line, and so those have been holding up pretty well.
yeah, John, you had shared with me, I guess in 1995, there was some rough master plan put together on the parks. I'm still trying to figure out how to image that. I'm not sure it's that appropriate, because it was pretty basic review of the trees. I mean,
Yes,
it really didn't address in much detail.
And I think the 75th anniversary group also did something in the park. So I have to look that up and find out. But I think
Okay.
they did something as far as updating the parks and trying to come up with something there as well. So I have not quite found that yet, but I think there was something from what I've read before in some of my other files that they were doing something.
Okay, yeah, let's try to identify that if we can. But we've talked a couple times about trying to do a master plan for the South 80, inventory and assess down there, because we're losing trees down there all the time too.
Yes.
But that's been something that's been talked about. It's just a matter of trying to identify the resources to get it done. One of the things I've always heard about in the past was this mayor's tree farm. Is that pretty much
That's shot.
that?
That's gone.
Bill, you laugh. I only
That's
asked the question because
it would be good. It works great if you have the people that can maintain them. The problem is we get these little pots, and then you got to move them to the next bigger pot, but if you get busy, then somebody forgets, hey, we got to start doing this, and then it gets way out of hand. So
Right.
most of
So
it being in the
so
gravel and stuff.
we don't have any trees in reserve at this point. Those are
No,
all,
everything that we've had, there might be one or two that we've have left, but everything else has been planted.
okay.
So,
All right. So anything we're planning, we're gonna have to buy from somewhere.
yes.
Okay.
And John, didn't MPPG want one of our maple trees? Has that been planted in the park?
No, that's what I brought up the bill, that we had an extra one, that if we wanted to use that for that park, we can. If not, they want something different, then I'll put it somewhere else. I got another area where I can put it at.
But I thought I had read somewhere, and Mary Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, that they said that they did want the tree, and they were gonna leave the stump. Is that correct?
Yes.
The last meeting that I had with them, that's what they expressed to me. They want the tree, and they want to leave the stump. And as I was talking with Rex about this a little earlier, I know some of you have sort of objected the idea that stump remaining there, but where they want to plant the tree, we're going to hold the tree substantially back from the existing stump. And should at some date in the future, they, like to your idea, Marcy, about putting a picnic table, or if they got new playground equipment of some type and they wanted to site it, somewhere in there, we can easily go in at that point and remove the stump.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I really like the idea of picnic tables, because the kids could use them, but then on weekends and, when the Carolyn concerts are going on, other people could use them as well. Increase
Weren't
the
they wanting to
availability.
make stump pathway for the kids to play? Is that not still the case?
Sort of. Off the big existing stump, I mean, that's fairly low to the ground. And then there's some honeysuckle that grows along off the one side of the stump, and there's kind of what I'm considering a junk tree as you go back toward the fence. They would like to have all of that cleared, and then, yeah, stand some other, smaller size stumps, sort of like the people at Waldorf do. The kids could sit on it, they'd be stool height, I guess, or chair or something, maybe a foot. I guess you're talking about like a foot, and it would kind of go back. But that kind of thing is, like I said, it wouldn't permanently interfere with any kind of new equipment or a picnic table, if and when you acquire that stuff.
Right.
Okay, so Bill, this is all the tot lot stuff, and you're coordinating getting a plan put together, and you're going to communicate whatever the plan is at this point.
Sure.
All right. Okay, and that's going to be done fairly soon, I'm assuming.
Well, because John has one of those maples remaining, right, John?
Yes, I can get you one.
I mean, I think, if he's got the tree and they want the tree, and we have a position where to put the tree, I think we should proceed with that. Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, just for the rest of the group, at our council meeting 2 weeks ago, we gave the mayor full authorization to come up with the final plan and just get it done as far as the tot lot is concerned. So the ball's in his court to coordinate and try to figure out what we're doing with the tot lot specifically, because we want to try to get everything in the ground before winter. And we knew if we tried to bring this back through the committees and council votes, we wouldn't get there. We'd run out of time. So on that specific piece, the ball's and responsibility is in Bill's court. So, all right. Tree spending in the past, I'd asked John to kind of accumulate some information about what would we actually spent on trees in the last 5 years. And just to summarize, it was about 58,000 in 2015, 30,000 in 2016, 81,000 in 2017, 45,000 in 2018, 117,000 in 2019, and about $44,000 through August of this year. So, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but that includes tree removal costs, stump removal costs, pruning, storm damage response. It's got a little bit of everything in there.
Yes.
And I really don't have a good breakout on, what was done, in those accumulated amounts I talked about. But you also mentioned that we got a Hurricane Michael reimbursement.
Hurricane Ike. Yeah.
Or was it Hurricane Ike? Okay, so that was a fairly long time ago, or
2008.
Okay, 2008. So, and you mentioned that we got like $70,000 or $80,000.
$80,000 back, but that included fire, police, and all our work that we did.
Okay, so that 117,000 we spent in 2019, there was no offsets from reimbursements or that was purely money out of the village.
Yes.
Okay, and at some point, I'd like to get a handle on where exactly are we spending those amounts. Because I was surprised to see there was as high as $117,000 last year as far as village spending on trees. But that's not putting trees in. That's taking trees out, taking stumps out, and everything else.
Well, that's also planting also is included in that.
Got it.
And then besides that, then you have what the service department has done as far as pruning and removing and stuff like that. So if there's something that we can handle, we go ahead and do that versus having Davy Tree. So we usually file about $100,000 every year with Tree City based on our administration stuff and all the other issues that they have that we can bring in our volunteer work. We're allowed to claim so much for that as well on our Tree City forms.
Now, on the Tree City, we only have to spend $2 per capita, did I see?
Correct.
Is the standard, which
That's
turns into
one of
what?
the standards.
Which is $6,000 for the village?
Yes. So we get that very easily.
Okay.
So,
And do you have any order of magnitude about how many service department hours are spent on trees? Do you track that type of stuff?
Yes, because that all goes into that Tree City report
Okay.
that I file every year.
Okay.
So-
Maybe you could share a copy of that report just so we have an idea about what we're spending every year on trees.
Okay.
Because my question remains at this point: Are we spending enough? And so the only way you know what you're spending enough is, what are you spending in the past, and how how much are you actually covering? So the order of magnitude of our issues here, we have to try to quantify in some format. So that's what I'm trying to gear for here.
Right.
You know?
Well, every
John?
year, in the past 5 years, we've been getting 50,000 in permanent improvement, and then 25 goes to beautification. So we're getting around 75,000 the last 5, 6 years so now. So,
But in some of those
And then-
years, we're only spending 30 or 40. So
yeah,
the question is again, how much are we spending? What do we need to spend? And what's the order of magnitude of the problem or the issue that we're trying to address here?
yeah, okay.
John, does that 117,000 include to Davies the fee for decorating the Old Town Christmas tree? Or
They
is that
donate,
separate?
they donate that time.
Okay,
So,
that's nice.
It is.
yes, so that saves us about $7,000 every year. So,
Wow.
Of course, the lights don't always light at the top.
squirrels.
Bill, we'll let you climb it this year and make sure all the plugs are in.
Give you a boost.
They didn't tell you that was your new job as mayor this year?
Definitely sounds like a mayor responsibility for sure.
Yeah, we only have
Bobby,
2 or
you're the
3
youngest
strands
one
together.
here.
Yeah. Update that electric. We'll be all right.
Okay, so then the other question that I've got is MPF contributions. I guess I've heard that there's been some of that over the past couple of years.
Sure.
Hey, Joe, I can talk to that.
Okay, cool.
About 2 years ago, our trustees were very strongly wanted to participate in new trees in the village. So we set aside $10,000 in 2018. And we've also raised money independent of that from families and Kiwanis or different groups of people, brownie troops. So we have a nice little bundle of money there. And in the first year, well, first of all, let me say that what we're interested in doing is really historic tree planting. We're not interested in pruning trees or doing all the work that John does, but we're interested in researching along with the tree committee, let me turn that on. What needs to be done. And so we focused in the historic district. In the first year we did Oak Street and we did Cherry Street. And I'm going to say that the amount of money there was maybe about $2,500, something like that. And then this year, we identified, working with John, the need on Maple Street. And so there's 22 maple trees that have gone in there just last week. And what an excellent job, John. I mean, quickly, timely, professionally, really nice looking. And I met with the mayor earlier today, and I know these trees cost about $220 each. And what I agreed with the mayor on is that we would provide $3,000 towards that. And so we'll check out to the village for that funding. So we have some more money, and what we'd like to do is, use it over time, not necessarily anymore this year, maybe, but that's kind of our contribution. And I also want to say, Joe, we're happy to be part of and want to be part of the Village Tree Committee. And, with our specific role, as I've already kind of outlined with you, and that is, specific historic tree placements. Now, earlier this year, we also wired together a tree on the corner of Marymount and
Pleasant.
Thank you. It's a rare juniper tree that had need of some cabling. So we assisted the homeowner. The homeowner had been taking care of it. It's Bob Bloom's yard, but it's actually in the village property. It's a village tree. And so we assisted in cabling that tree together so it would hold up a little bit longer. So we could do things like that as well.
So let me understand this, because I want to make sure if this is in these spending numbers or not. Are you cutting the check directly towards the buying the trees, and you're not giving it to the village?
To the village. Check to the
You're
village.
giving it to the village, and so it's going to wind up in these spending numbers that I was quoting before. Is that correct, John?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Just want to
And
make sure.
actually, you know what, for that, our check for the trees that were planted in the fall of 2018 is when we did oak and cherry. We did them in the fall of 2018.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
We
was
reimbursed the
3,700.
village. We reimbursed the village just under $3,500. It was
Yeah, okay.
$34,72.88.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
So,
So I think it was 0 last year.
Okay, no, thanks, Rex. Again, I'm just trying to piece all the numbers together and make sure we have a comprehensive view of what we've been doing with trees. John, have we gotten any grants at all? Have we gone after any of the grants that might be floating around for these types of activities?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right, and then this year's budget is roughly about 50,000, even though we spent 44 so far. Are we going to go a little bit above?
I think we had 60,000 was put in this year.
Okay.
We had 31,000 that was carried over from last year, back in January.
Yeah, the 44 includes that 30. It was a carryover from 2019.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming. I'm kind of working off of the village financial reports here. So roughly, we're going to spend what, what's your estimate for the next couple months?
Next couple of months is probably going to be another 8,000, I believe.
Okay.
Because I've got 2 other emergencies that came in. And then we found one now that the leaves are off on one of the trees on Thorndike. The one whole side is dead, so it has to be removed. Part of it's going to be removed, if not all.
Okay.
But that should, hopefully that'll take care of this year. Then everything that's coming in now that people are calling me about, we're actually going to push over till next year on that list.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the numbers so far? And again, this is kind of preliminary. Hopefully I'll get something put together to summarize this a little bit better, working with John to get a little more detail so we're all on the same page about what we spent in the past. And then hopefully we can develop, what we might try to spend in the future to address these things. I'd like to talk a little bit about the code of ordinances that are out there right now. Not only the current code of ordinances that Marymount has in place, but I had circulated the recommended code of ordinances from the Arbor Day Foundation, for the Tree City. One of the things I noticed, our tree ordinance seems to date back to 1967. And there's some things in here that probably aren't real clear. And I also would question about some of these things, if they're actually being enforced or not, or monitored. One of the things is, I think this has been thrown around a lot in the last 20 years about the mayor shall control supervision of planting, care, and protection of all street trees and plants. And so my question is, and I'm not sure I understand this, is what does supervision mean?
He comes out, watches us, and tells us how to do it.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, who's responsible for planning then? I mean, who's supposed to put the plans?
Either us or the nursery. Or usually the mayor will just designate somebody to go over and watch them and do it anyway. So
no, again, I'm kind of getting to the point, which is, okay, if we have a tree committee, are they responsible, for helping plan? Who puts the plan together at the end of the day? So, and I'm not saying we have to solve that today. I'm just asking the question.
Well, that'll be the tree committee. That'll work out all that detail out with the nursery and everything else like that. So really, to get your trees, you really got to go back late May, early June to start going around the nurseries. Once you determine what kind of trees you want, and start picking out the good ones then, because when you wait this long, you're subject to whatever they got left on the lot. And a lot of them aren't really that great. Fortunately, this time around, the gentleman I dealt with out with Site 1 that I've been dealing with for years, he has a company up in Michigan that had a bunch of real nice ones. So that worked out real well for us. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's something that the committee would end up doing and trying to work all that out.
Hey, John, I know with the maples on Maple Street, we ended up getting a different variety than I think Wendy recommended.
Yes.
You know, if with enough advance notice, can they get us the specific tree that we're wanting?
Yes. So the trees that we got here are similar to the ones that she recommended.
Right.
And they're a little bit more hardier. So she was pleased that we got,
Yeah, I'm really pleased with the difference. The original ones were great that she selected, but these are fabulous. I think there's some characteristics that the first choice didn't have, which is going to be better for us. So they're beautiful trees.
Right, here's another section of the code of ordinances that I saw. It said the mayor shall formulate and adopt rules and regulations governing the performance of acts of operations affecting street trees and street plants. So Bill, I'm throwing this one in your block. Do we have rules and regulations?
Not really.
I can tell from your smile, we probably don't. That you haven't
Yes,
found them
Bill,
yet.
please submit those right away.
Well, I mean, I would say, obviously, what we're doing here tonight, right now, is sort of, I mean, aren't we now formulating, we can come up with rules and regulations and plans. This is what the tree committee, at least what my understanding of it would be. This is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Right.
so with the ordinance, we can change it. The mayor works with the tree board, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the tree committee.
Junction
Yeah.
with or
Exactly. So what I'm going to ask the other committee members and if everyone to take a look at the code ordinances, I think I sent that around last time. I'll send it around again, a PDF that you can take a look at it and see, what makes sense in doing, and we'll try to work on this to, and we've run into this problem with multiple sections of the code ordinances. It hasn't had a thorough review in a while, and there's stuff in there that may or may not make sense, or needs to be updated for kind of currently what we're doing. We did this with the pool a while back, and now we just need to kind of take a look at it for the trees, and I ask everyone to try to take a look at it. Another thing I noticed is that there's things in there about height limitations of trees and plants near streets and sidewalks, especially near the intersections. John, are you monitoring that, or is anybody monitoring?
Yes. Now, the new rule is, you don't want to plant within 20 feet of an intersection. And there was also a thing years ago about when Mike Lemon was here, I think we were going to 10 feet by the driveways. So
Okay.
that's come out to be an issue every once in a while. Somebody will bring up a view obstruction being close to their driveway. And if you remember back on Fieldhouse or on Flint Point, we ended up removing a historical tree just so a guy could have a parking pad.
Mm.
So,
Okay,
But,
so it's basically getting enforced by when people make a comment or to let you
Yes.
know. Okay.
yes.
So somehow it'd be nice to communicate that to the residents, let them know that there's rules like that. And the other thing I was wondering is removing trees without a permit. I mean, we got some pretty specific things in here about
Yes.
removing and trimming. And are we aware of anybody that takes trees out without permits?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
so
How this all came about was years ago. We had people coming in for GE or P&G, and they'd move into the village for maybe 6 months and then get transferred again. Well, you have a big oak tree in the backyard and you get a storm and it loses one big limb, and the people freak out. So they have people coming in taking out these heritage trees. So that's why they developed that part of the thing about getting a permit. So anything 12 inches or larger in diameter, 4 foot up, is considered a historical tree, and therefore they have to get a $25 permit.
okay.
So in order to get that permit, they have to have an arborist look at the tree and say, yes, it does have to come out or whatever, and have all the backing up to it. And then they'll call us, and then I'll work with Davies, and we'll try to look at it as much as I can to
So
figure out.
again, when we talk
So-
about enforcement on something like that, how do you make sure? I mean, we're not looking at everybody's backyard all the time. So if somebody pulls
No.
a tree out without a,
Oh,
how
you'll be
would we
amazed.
even know?
You'd be amazed the number of people that call.
Okay,
As soon as they see a truck out there and they see somebody up high up in a tree trimming, that's the first thing they do is call us and say, hey, is this guy taking this tree out? What are they doing? In the past, I let Bill or Don know that, hey, I got an oops ticket for a stump removal. I don't know what size the guy's tree was, but we're going to go over and look at it and see if it needed to be permitted or not, or see if he has a permit for that resident. So, but
It probably
there is
couldn't
no
hurt to put out-
fines. Our fines aren't that great. I think they just say, okay, pay your $25 and don't worry about it. I've told Eileen that, we ought to have a minimum $100 fine, period, for anything. And then, of course, the building stuff, that should be fined even higher than that. Because we're finding people doing stuff without permits, putting porches on and everything else. So that's the
Right.
building
I mean,
department
I think it
aspect of it. So,
could just be worth a reminder, if we get the email set up through the website, something like that, or whenever we're doing just like kind of little reminders out to folks, just because a lot of people just don't know.
yeah.
right. Well, the other section I saw,
Joe,
go ahead.
I just want to add something. So when we had a tree and it wasn't on the park strip, it was in our yard proper, and we wanted to save it, and the Shawnee tree, when they came back to prune it, just said, no, I mean, it's just got to go. But they were aware that they needed a permit.
Yes.
And, and they told me.
Okay.
So, I would suspect that the companies that frequent Marymount are aware of our policy and.
Yes. But
But the guys that just have a chainsaw
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of-
I had a guy stop the other day and ask me if I would like my linden tree taken down, or why isn't it down? Because it's dying. And he had been trimming a street tree around the corner from me. So I know it happens fairly recently.
Well, you
Yeah,
don't
the
have to
tree
have a
comp-
permit to have a tree trimmed, do you?
A street tree, you shouldn't. This was a village tree.
So a lot of the,
So you should not be trimming a street tree unless John is notified. I mean, we
Right.
just had a situation where a resident trimmed paid several $100s, and then he wanted us to reimburse him, and he hadn't contacted John. He had no permission to do it. Of course, again, to obvious point, he didn't know he was a new resident. So we kind of need to do better in that area.
Oh, so John, FYI, my little, 5-year-old neighbor down the street likes to climb my tree on the park strip and trimmed a branch for me accidentally.
Oh,
FYI.
yeah.
I did
No,
not
now a lot of-
authorize.
Yeah, a lot of the tree companies know that work in the village know they have to have a permit. A lot of it is when they, in their contract, it has that the homeowner will get the permit.
Right.
So they're assuming the homeowner already got it while they go out and do their thing. So,
okay. So what you're telling me is we can monitor it.
yes.
And maybe enforcement with some increased fines is
Yes.
something we should think about. That way that keeps people a little more. There's actually some things in there about guidelines for trimming and pruning. And they have to be consistent with those set forth by the International Society of Arboriculture. I have no idea what that means. So I doubt that many other people in the village understand that. And so, I mean, we should probably think about trying to educate some people. There's actually some of the species that they mentioned that you can only prune during certain times of the year.
Yes.
So, I mean,
I think Wendy actually gives a course. Am I right about that, John? Or is it somebody gives a course about trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Wendy does. She has a little school, a
You know?
freshman class, sophomore class, that kind of thing.
It's
So-
the Tree Commission Academy. Yeah, it's
Yes.
ODNR puts it
Because
on.
apparently, Joe, you can prune trees a certain way to train them to grow how you want them to.
Correct.
So, I mean, I thought that, I didn't know that. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's young tree pruning there that we don't do much of. So,
well, this is something that the tree committee can figure out, how to communicate that to residents effectively so they realize there's something out there that, maybe we can help them some way. Understand some of these things.
Yes.
Because, we've got it in our code of ordinances. I don't think it's probably being followed because most people aren't aware of it. I mean, so something to kind of put on the list to try to do. All right, so let's talk about the Tree City USA a little bit. I've learned a few things on that. I've shared some things. So the 4 standards that we have to comply with to get our annual designation is we need to have a tree board or a department that has legal responsibility. We need to have a tree care ordinance, which I guess we somewhat have.
Yes.
So we have to have a forestry program with an annual budget of $2 per capita, which we are far exceeding, so we're okay there. And the last one is just an annual Arbor Day observance and proclamation. I mean,
Right.
I think and summation is pretty much what we need to do. But they encourage a systematic management of tree resources, inventory assessment, and then education, as you guys were talking about a little bit. And they also have some grant programs. And so again, is that something we should be investigating in the future to see if we can pull some money in, to help us in our process. So you guys have been talking to Wendy Van Buren from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. It looks like she's been a great help
Yes.
up to this point. And Barb, to your point, I did see that Tree Commission Academy that they offer with lots of, it was kind of wild to see the curriculum that they had for the Tree
Yeah, it's
Commission Academy.
pretty in depth.
So has anybody in Marymount actually participated in that at
Yes.
this point?
John,
I'm a graduate.
Are you?
yeah.
Yes,
I've only
Congratulations.
done, yeah, I've done freshman years all.
Well, did you find it worthwhile to do, John?
Oh, believe me, I learned more about trees than I ever knew of. There's a
Okay.
lot to do. There's actually, if you have a really good tree program, most departments that have a good tree program use that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of blew me away. I learned that I didn't know that much about trees.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm willing to
But,
admit that I know nothing about trees.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. That's very good. And then you shared with us the oak, cherry, and maple plans is what I'm calling it. The trees that were planted, about 15 on Oak and Cherry Street, and about 26 now on, but I just heard 22 now for maple.
Yes.
22 is the number. All right.
Yes.
And then some number over on Center. We talked about the cost. We talked about the contributions. My one question is, do we approach the landlords for a contribution on that? Yeah, because in essence,
I know Wendy has talked to him when she was going down marking things, and I don't know, Mary Beth, didn't you talk to Mr. Hamilton?
Yeah, I just ran into him. It was a very informal kind of
Oh,
meeting,
okay.
but it's interesting because on Maple Street, I learned there's really only 3 owners for all of those buildings.
Wow.
So there's 10 groups, and there are 3 groups of businesses that own the buildings. And you would think that they would be thrilled that we've invested in their properties, but I heard mostly positive comments from residents, but I ran into one of the maintenance care people for one of the buildings that has been there for years and years. And she was just like, yeah, that's great, but what about all the new leave, like all the work that's required to remove leaves? And I said, well, I haven't heard anything negative about this. I said, this is like all plus, and actually it's a huge investment by the village and by MPF to do this. And it's an increase in the property values for the owners of these buildings.
right.
So I said, like positives, it shades your cars, it gives the kids shade to play under, it beautifies, it's healthier, a healthier environment. So it's interesting. I never thought about asking them to contribute. I mean, this is the first big project that I've worked on with it, but it's an interesting idea. I don't know what kind of a response we'll get, but we could always try. We should certainly let them know what we spent on this and what kind of investment we made on their behalf. Because I don't know if they think of it as a positive.
Yeah, I
it's a
view it
gift.
as improving the value of their property, and so they should be willing to contribute to it. Now, they haven't shown a lot of desire to do that in the past, but it's something, hopefully we can convince them to do. They need to be part of this community, and hopefully, contribute to the positive improvements we're making.
I agree.
So hopefully we can try to do that, and hopefully we can get some money out of them in the future. Okay, you talked about a village arborist, John, and we had one in 2010, 2011. And my question is, do we need one? And, I know cost is a factor, and,
Yes.
and do we have any other options besides, hiring an arborist?
We started, they're mainly part-timers is what we've done it. I mean, called them in anytime we needed an assessment on trees. We had Randy Holler prior to that, and then we had Tom out of Kentucky. I can't think of his last name offhand, but and he was the one that was starting when I had him going around starting to do the tree inventory. The cost became a factor, and that was the end of that deal. So
So how far did they get on the inventory? Did they ever produce anything, or?
yeah, he did. He was on the west side. Settle, Homewood. I'll have to look in my notes and see everything that he got done there. But Park Lane, Harvard, I think.
How long ago was that?
2010, 2011. So.
Yeah, that might, if they did enough work and they shared it with us, or we got a copy of it, that puts us a little bit out of the game, even though it's 10 years old.
So, but some of the trees that he had on there have already gone, have been removed and stuff. But so I talked to a gentleman in Anderson Township because they were looking at getting an arborist and thought maybe we could share an arborist. There is a gentleman down in Terrace Park. They have their own arborist down there on staff. So but they have a tree ordinance and they run a levy to help cover all that cost. So there might be some people out there that, yeah, you might be able to get as a part-time person to come in and do a few things here and there. That might be an option for us later down the road. I think
I'm not
working with
saying-
Wendy, and going to go around, look at the sites, and then eventually go do a tree inventory. I think she would help us out on that. Just
I'm
take
not
one
saying we
section
have
at
to
a
do
time.
it right now,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking the question about,
Yeah.
it sounds like we tried it in the past and we haven't, done it recently. And probably the key is finding the right person
Yeah.
to do it.
So, and we do have an arborist that lives in our village. She works for the city of Cincinnati.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's something later on we want to look at that. Marianne Pure, she lives over on Belmont. And see, she may be too busy at Cincinnati. She might just help out if we need something here or there. But I can always reach out to her if something major comes up. So, but I think Wendy's going to help us out quite a bit here, as much as she's done. I've been working with her since I started here. So
Okay.
and it's been a great relationship.
So who's Tom Davis?
That was our last arborist. That's
Okay,
his name, Tom
because he
Davis.
claims on his LinkedIn profile, he claims to be the urban forester for the village of Marymount. So,
Okay. Well, we haven't used him since 2011.
How long is it?
Wow.
When did he update his LinkedIn?
Well, he may not even use it much. Who knows? So,
Does that-
he was just brought in for a few little things and off they went. So,
okay. All right,
does
so let's talk
Jason
about,
Brown Knight help at all with the trees?
I'm sorry.
Jason Brown Knight. I said, does
Yeah.
Jason Brown Knight help out at all with the trees?
so Jason has helped us on the South 80 a couple times, and he was trying to back away from, some of the village stuff because of disputes in the past. He may be available to bring back into the picture now, I can reach out to him. I'm not sure if he's a certified arborist. I know he basically handled the Cincinnati Nature Center for years, as far as operations guy up there, and he helped us immensely on the South 80. I didn't know the difference between a tree and a weed down there, and he knew all this stuff, so I didn't have to worry about it. Jason, what do I do with this one? That type of thing. So he was more than willing to help us on the South 80. I think he kind of has this, was trying to back away from some of the stuff. I think we might be able to hopefully encourage him to get engaged again. But but I'm not sure exactly what his training is. I mean, whether
Yeah,
he's a
I'm not
certified
either.
arborist or not.
I just
I've
know
been to
our daughters are friends, and he is
Oh,
super
nice.
knowledgeable. Anytime he's over, I'm always
Yeah.
like, so what do you think about this tree? So he has a wealth of knowledge, but I don't know his background either.
I've been to a couple of things that he's put on invasive removal. And I think that's his prime area of focus, although he may be great on trees too, but
Hey, guys.
that's where I've heard him speak.
Excuse me, I have an emergency situation with Amanda, so I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
All
All right. So I only had one last thing I wanted to cover here, which was the tree committee. Go ahead, Marcy. We'll keep you informed. What is the current defined role for the well, let me step back for a second here. I'm trying to figure out who the members are of the current tree committee. And so I've got it as Marcy, Mary Beth, Barb, Karen. Rex, are you on the tree committee, or are you just an interested person at this point?
I don't plan on being on the tree committee, but I would recommend that Brad Lockhart from Marymount Preservation be on, as well as Mary Beth.
Okay, so that's 5 people that we have on right now. And so my question is, what is the current defined role for the tree committee? Is it just the historic district trees?
No, it's for the whole village. It'll be for the whole village. So we're still in the process of getting it all going. We don't want a lot of members on it because then it gets way too hectic. So the current role out of these people here, then they meet 6
Well,
times a
John,
year.
I'm going to challenge you on
So-
that statement. Who's the we that don't want a lot of people on it?
Well, when I talked to Wendy Van Buren about setting this all up, she's the one that said you don't want to get a lot of people involved. You want a small group to deal with. You don't want 15, 20 people on it because it just gets too hectic and it doesn't work real well. So a lot of the communities, the city communities, Montgomery and all that, there's only X amount of people. It's just like the park board. You only have 5 people there, or the South 80 has 7 people there. It's kind of, you're going to go the same direction. is what I'm trying to do is keep
Well,
it down.
John,
minimal.
I will argue with you on that a little bit. Karen, you can help me on this too. We've got 9 people on the pool commission now, and it's working extremely well. I mean, everybody has now picked an item to work on, and so the group is working really well together. So if we get the right group together with the right person leading it, I think we can have more people on there. And it sounds like this is going to be a pretty big job.
Well, not too bad. Right now, the Park Advisory Board was the one that was doing it the last years. So, and they just put a little blurb in their meetings. Well, that's not
Okay,
really
but that's
sufficient enough.
but I
for
don't
us.
think that's what
why-
we're looking for here. I think we're looking for a group that's going to help us.
Well, hell, I got 20 people that want to do it. I mean,
okay, so that's
it
my
just-
question.
it's going to get too big, and then it's going to be, I mean, I don't care. I was just trying to set up something so that we had something strong to go by, because the tree program has been a disaster previous years.
Mhm.
That I thought I could come up with something good to make a good, strong program here for the village. So I didn't
Joe?
want to get it too big and too dispersed where everybody starts. They want this, they want that. They don't like this tree. They want this tree, back and forth. Why that person got a tree, why I didn't get a tree, that kind of thing.
I don't
So-
think that would be an issue with the right people on the board.
Yeah. Well-
And I think with experience on the pool.
Yeah. Well, quality versus quantity is the way I always
Right,
look at it.
right. I think
So-
you got to get the right people.
So I figured if we had somebody from council, somebody from the park board, somebody from MPF, and somebody from the garden club, and if there's anybody from the park advisory who wants to get on, which I haven't heard anything from them, then that way I got all the groups covered, that we got a nice little organization to work together. So,
That's what I was just going to add. It'd be good to have someone from Park Advisory Board. I didn't know if maybe Karen was in that role. No?
No, I'm garden club.
she's garden,
Okay.
and then Barb's our resident. So I figured I had all my bases covered.
She's very knowledgeable.
Working on it. Working on it.
And Mary
Uh,
So,
Beth,
and that's
Mary
something we
Beth-
can.
Mary Beth's garden club too. She has 2 roles there.
Yeah. So, and that's something we can put in the ordinance up to X amount of people, if you want to do it
Well,
that way. or
I'm
How many
more
years?
it's kind of thinking at a macro level now, more than exactly how many people are going to have on it. And from a macro level, I would say, what skills and abilities are we looking for, and people to serve on the tree committee? Do we want somebody that has some arborist experience? Do we want somebody that has some, I'll throw another name out here. Martin Kepke's helped us a lot on the Murray Path project as far as designing the plan there. Does a landscape architect make sense? The problem.
In my opinion, no.
Okay.
They do
And-
pretty drawings, but I just reviewed my tree commission and academy notebook this afternoon for I don't know what reason, but that's not the kind of person you really want to get tree advice from. It may be a
Okay.
beautiful drawing, and I don't argue that at all. But when you're talking about what tree to put in what spot, or what trees to put on what street, or how to best care for your trees, I don't really think that's it. When I took the Tree Commission Academy classes, most of the people I met who were taking the classes were on their community tree boards.
Okay.
And I think that's what a lot of communities want to see.
So
is
would
that
we
people
ask,
do- Well-
ask members of the tree committee to take some of those classes? Would that be something we would recommend?
Well, I would recommend it if they wanted to. I mean, it's a great course to learn
It's-
more about trees and
I'd be interested in
the
taking it.
city. It's like $35 for the
I'd be
class.
it's
So,
interested in-
Nominal.
I'd be interested in taking it.
yeah. So
Yeah. But
and if
there
there's
were
enough
people,
around
my
here, then
knowledge.
we can always host the tree
Yeah.
board, or tree class. So
yeah, there were
but-
communities that sent like 3-4 people at a time because they were on their tree board or because they were going to be on the tree board.
And
So
so
I-
if we can identify people that have a passion for trees, they're naturally going to take the tree academy, and they're going to be a great contributor to this process. And so, John, when you talk about 20 people, I don't know if we're ever going to get to that. I don't know if we would have that. But if we had 20 people that wanted to work on it, I mean, you try to figure out how to build your structure around it. And I don't know if we're going to have the tree committee actually out there planting trees at any point in time. That's not what we're kind of starting off
No,
with here.
no.
But if you have passionate people, you'd be surprised what they might do. And Karen, you can kind of find what you're seeing on the pool commission right now.
Right.
We got a lot of passionate people who are going to figure stuff out for the pool.
It's just new blood, and it's, I mean, it's so many skilled people with finance, and, you know, I was just really impressed. And I think everybody is committed to saving the pool. And it feels like we have the right people in the right place and the right leadership. And Joe, you're part of that, getting that started.
But I kind of backed away now because I think you're
I
all
know
there.
you, well, I
I
know
mean,
you have.
I think with Lauren and everybody you have there, and the
Yeah.
fact now you have your charter and you have your bylaws,
Bylaws, yeah. We
you know
have-
what you're doing.
We have
And-
direction, and
Right.
that's the key.
Right.
And that's actually, if I could say, the involvement that I've been around with John and Wendy Van Buren, he really tapped into working with her. Like, I don't know if other communities do what he does, and having that working relationship with her and using her as a source of knowledge and direction. And she will send you so much information, you will be overwhelmed.
Okay.
She could teach you so much about trees. So, I mean, that's a resource that as a tree committee, we'll continue to use her. And we'll find new ways to use her services too. Now, she does represent probably 15 to 17 counties in the state of Ohio. So she's a busy lady, but she's
Okay.
also very willing to help if we direct her on what we want. She's not going to come in and do the whole inventory of the whole village. She won't do
Okay.
that, but she could direct us on things.
So the tree committee can expand away or from just the historic district to be the entire village.
Yes. Yes, that's what
Everybody
it's
okay
all
with
for.
that concept?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
right, so-
are we separate then from the Parks and Recreation?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Now,
This will be a total separate thing, yes.
well, then I think more people should be added.
Well, we don't have to make those decisions today. As I said, starting off the meeting, this was more about information flow. Give you all something to think about, and then we can get back together and kind of hash out, some more of the details. But I was just trying to, give an overview about where, what I've seen so far and trying to gather information on it. But I think the overall goal is how do we come up with a master plan for street trees and or for park trees, and get the right framework in place so we can, make some progress on it.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, what's the current count then right now?
Oh, as far as participants,
Members? Yeah.
based on what I just heard, six, or I'm sorry, five.
5, I think.
Okay. Should probably be a bigger number.
Yeah, so to clarify, Joe, are we including park trees or just street trees at this point?
Right now, it's just, overall, it'll be the whole thing. But right now, we're working on the street trees, trying to get that our canopy back and figure out what we're going to need, what our needs are at that point.
I think the answer to that, Marcy, is we don't know.
Okay.
We're still, I mean, you're forming a group, from kind of infancy here and trying to decide. And I'd say, yeah, okay, the focus right now is street trees. But at some point, could it be park trees within the tree committee? Or should that be part of the Parks Advisory? Or should it be somebody else that's doing it? I don't know. But at some point, we probably should look at park trees too, because there should be a plan there.
So John and Bill, I don't know if you would remember this, but I had a neighbor who grew up on Center Street visiting his mother, and he was telling me that when he was a kid, there were no trees in the concourse, and they used to play football out there. And they think that the previous owners of our house donated trees to keep the kids out of the park. But I don't remember. Do you remember when you were, you've been around here 20 some years though, right, John?
Yeah, 30, but yeah,
Do you remember, are trees always been in the concourse as far as you can
yes.
remember? Okay,
Yes.
what about you,
As far as
Bill?
I remember too.
Well, when I first came here, of course, there were still teepees down at the, I came in a wagon.
All right, so
Hey,
we've covered a lot in the last hour. Is there anything else? Any other questions that anyone has as we kind of go forward with this process?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
What do you think our meeting structure should be for trying to form all of this? Like what kind of a meeting plan, like a cadence do we want to have? How often are we meeting?
Well, you have to meet at least 6 times a year.
No, but I
So-
mean to get this like set up. and
I'm so
started.
sorry. I don't want to interrupt. I have to drop off. So, but go ahead, continue. But I didn't want to just drop off. So good night.
All right, thanks, Avia.
Thanks, Avi.
Mary Beth, I would say the answer to that is to be determined as you get your group together and figure it out. If we have a requirement that you have to meet 6 times a year for the Tree City, does it say how long that meeting has to be or what? I mean, if 2 of the meetings are very short, but you all will figure that out. I mean, I tend to try to just make sure there's a structure in place, but let the people doing it figure out what that structure should be. My overall goal here is to at least get something in place that we're working on a plan, and we're all on the same plan. And that plan's being communicated not only to the rest of council, but to the residents about what we're up to. Because I don't believe that's happened in a while around here. So I hate to punt like that on your question, Mary Beth, but
Oh,
I
you're
just,
fine. Oh, no, I accept
Right.
that. Yeah.
and again, we'll find somebody within that group, like in the case when we did the bylaws for the pool commission, Lauren just took the bull by the horns and put something together. And we went through it and everybody agreed. We did a structure and away we went. So we'll find somebody who wants to do the organizational structure and y'all will just figure out how to do it. All I want to see is trees going in the ground. I want to see the canopy being preserved more than anything else. So,
Yes.
Amen.
I think Pipe wants to be on the committee.
Yeah. So our next
No,
tree board,
And I will tell you, if it comes to the point where we have to start doing some fundraising, for trees, I mean, we've been, we've been doing pretty well as far as, raising contributions for the Murray Path. And I have no doubt if you put a tree plant in front of people and say, please help us get this done, that, the money will be there.
yes.
I
I
mean,
know when we first started our effort with MPF, we had some kind of, how did that work? You could pledge certain money for the trees. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And we got a lot of people who said, oh, wow, if I know my money can go to trees, I'll contribute.
Right.
So,
But I think you have to get a plan in front of them and explain to them what we're facing here. Because I think at this point, you guys have addressed probably 2 or 3% of the streets in Marymount. That's how daunting the task is. So,
Yeah. So our next tree board meeting is actually the 4th of November, 10:30.
Mhm.
So there'll be another email to go out so everybody knows
Mhm.
how to log on.
one approach would be, I guess you could go by the old districts, to kind of do it by district.
That's not a bad idea. So you have representation.
No.
When Wendy and I started to do the tree survey, last year before last, we were trying to do the district that is Beach and Homewood and the Old Town Center and all that.
Yeah. District 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
So
That just might
Yeah.
make a structure that makes sense. To, it's instead of just going by street.
yeah. Well, then you get the ones who say, oh, how come they're planting over there? I haven't had any planting done over here for X amount of
Well,
years.
just tell them that we're trying
So-
to create a comprehensive
Right,
plan. We
right.
just started there because it was in the most need.
Yes.
And
So-
I think people will feel are reasonable if they know that it's not just, that their area isn't being overlooked. It's not a if, it's a not yet.
Yes.
all right. So probably in about 2 weeks, I'll schedule another health and rec committee meeting. We'll try to address a couple of these things we talked about tonight, which is the code of ordinances, modifications to those, and some of these other things about, a preliminary structure for the tree committee. And then, if we are going to expand, how do we expand? And how are those, I mean, we do have a process in place for pool commissions, park advisory board, all the rest of the stuff that it literally goes through council for their approval for the people that are appointed on the tree committee. And that really hasn't happened. Oh, I'm sorry, that happens for the other committees, but it hasn't
Right.
happened for tree committee yet. So in theory, we should probably do that same thing, which is, have people that are being proposed for it and have a vote. The council, approves those members to the committee. But if we're going to expand it, let's figure out, what we're going to expand and go from there. And that's going to kind of be the job of the Health and Rec Committee to make that recommendation to council.
Yes.
So we all have a little bit of work here to do. And again, you can still have your tree committee on the 4th. That's fine. But there may be some, additional structural changes coming.
Okay.
Everybody good then?
Mhm.
All right. Marcy, I don't know if you still want to talk about the Waldorf Advisory Group. That was the second thing that was supposed to be on the agenda today, and now that Avia dropped off.
Yeah, it's
I'm
up
gonna
to
drop-
you, Joe. I mean,
So I'll just do this real fast. Number one, we need to get a communication out to the citizens about anybody who might be interested in serving on the advisory group. And I sent you an email probably about an hour ago,
yeah, I
Marcy.
saw it. I saw it.
Okay, so if you could go through that and give me some comments back, that would be the first step. See you, Karen. Thank you. Thanks for coming. If you could go through that email and if we can get that out via our email system. Mary Beth, see you later. Thanks.
Not to interrupt, Joe. Hey, John, don't drop off. And I want to talk to you about something when they're finished.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So
Sorry.
take a look at that and we'll try to get that communication out to expand or determine the pool of people who are interested in serving on the advisory group. And the Waldorf has offered to drop a flyer in the historic district with that on. So we will definitely touch every doorstep in the historic district. And then, if there's anybody else that's interested, and again, we're looking for is to get a letter of interest, and then we'll figure out where to go from there.
So
how many
do you
people-
have any idea how many people you're thinking of? Because I mean, I'm thinking like maybe 2 from the Waldorf or 3 or 4 from the historic district.
I have no
That's
idea on that yet. Let's figure out if we only get 6 people that respond, then then we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. If we get more than that, then maybe we might have to limit the number of people and try to get the right skill sets and people on there. So the only person that I'm aware of who's expressed interest at this point is Matt Air. So
Yeah.
I would hope you'd have more than, say, 5 or 6 from the community. Gosh.
I think you get it out and see what happens.
No.
Yeah.
But again, I do believe by dropping it on doorsteps and using our email systems and all the rest of stuff, we'll get some responses back.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
So that'll conclude our health and rec meeting, or do you have something else for John?
Yeah, I want to talk to John about the plumbing situation at the building. The guy was
All right,
not
all right.
here
Hold on,
today.
Stephen, can you terminate the online feed?
Yeah, I'll do it right now. and
Okay,
I'll
so
let
we're
you guys
done
know.
we're done with the official meeting.